clapper. Daily Adventure number 902. Still trying to connect here. All right. Let me tell you what I'm doing. I already said it in the title there. I am doing at least starting, I don't think I'll finish it tonight, but I'm starting what I call a smooth finish. It's actually what I call a charcoal drawing, in contradistinction to a charcoal sketch. Now this guy starts yelling at me. And this is a commission piece. Somebody emailed me this photograph of their grandparents smooching at the top of a hill in 1954, so about the year that I was born. So it's my parents' age. Right, I'm going to go ahead and move you to a better perch so you can look straight down on my drawing and see what's going on. It's going to be a square drawing. It was a square photograph. And again, I have several. This is a blow up and an enlargement in Photoshop of the couple. This is dark, underexposed. This is light, overexposed. So I get different details. See, I get with the dark, I get more details in the dress than in the clothing than I do here. But in the light one, I get a little bit more information in the face. So I'll be using all of that. Here's one that's the actual size that I'm going to be drawing. And I've already printed out this image on actually tracing paper so that I can see as much as possible. And I'm drawing on a single ply Bristol board. So here we go. Charcoal. Step number one. I'm going to open very carefully. Whew, this stuff scares me to death every time I open it. It's charcoal powder. Yes, sir, folks. Powder. And here's a brush. Then I'm going to dip into the powder. Shake very gently. So what I'm going to do, I've been thinking about this for a few days, and I certainly hope I've made the right decision. I'm going to give the entire page a uniform what's the word I'm looking for? Gray tone of about 10 or 20%, I'm guessing. It has been a while since I did a charcoal drawing. Done several charcoal sketches in recent years, but it's been a while since I did a charcoal drawing, so I'm very much looking forward to this. If you want to see some of my charcoal drawing work, just go to dannelsonart.com, click on illustrations at the top of the front page. Click on illustrations, and then one of the albums that will open up in front of you is pencil and charcoal. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to put the lid back on this before anybody sneezes. And I've got a rag here. It's just slightly damp, and it needs to be slightly damper. So just I'm not going to rub the drawing with this. This is just to clean up the tape. See that? And the drawing board. As you can imagine, when it comes to charcoal drawing, cleanliness is next to godliness. It's it can get away from you so easily, especially when you're using something as volatile, if you will, uncontrollable as charcoal powder. So I'm going to give that drawing table just another spray. I have a number of charcoal kits, in fact, labeled, cleverly labeled, large, medium, and small. Here, let me get this out of the way. Here's my large one. So I have here a whole bunch of okay, let's take a quick tour of charcoal tools, okay? For vine charcoal, very soft, natural, no binder, no binding agents, no wax, completely dry. Charcoal powder, you already saw. This, and the vine charcoal is a light gray. And I've already taken out all of my charcoal pencils. So let me grab these brushes out of here so you're not quite so confusing. First of all, some of you might be a little bit surprised to see so many brushes in a charcoal kit. Well, there you go. So this is smooth finish, refined charcoal, not your grandpa's charcoal, whatever that means. These then are all charcoal pencils. Yeah. Oh, here's a tool you ought to know about. I've got a modern one and an antique one that is a vine charcoal holder or handle. Okay, that's a good trick. Good thing to know about. That's the modern one. This is truly an antique. I love it. I inherited it from one of my deceased artist friends. And here's another trick you ought to know about. This is not just pertinent to charcoal, but colored pencil, any kind of pencil. Look, this pencil is quite short and it would be really hard to hold. But you buy this. I have quite a few of these laying around here and there, and all my, in my charcoal kits, in my. I don't think they fit pastel, but anyway. Then all the rest of these, as you can see, are just charcoal pencils, hard, medium, and soft, mostly. Okay, so those are. I'm going to put the brushes back in there because I'll be using all those. Not every one. I'll be using those tonight. And then, of course, there's the ever-present blender. I just have them in this bag. Keep them separate. Tortillions, or blender, or blending stump, or blending stub. And then finally, this is a package. I'll pull these out. This is a package of blenders and erasers. Again, so I'm not trying to blow you away. Here's an eraser, and here, not to be outdone, there's an eraser shield. Just in case there's anybody out there that maybe you're a young artist and think, hey, I think I kind of like charcoal. Well, so I've just given you a quick tour. Here's some of the tools. You don't need to get them all at once. You don't need this many blenders. Of course, these are so cheap. You don't need this many erasers. I won't even take time to describe all these. They're all just this is a eraser, and actually an eraser cut at both ends, freshly sharpened, I might add. Of course, this is an eraser pencil. This is an eraser pencil. This is a blender. Now here I am telling you. This is called a paint mover. It's just a real soft rubber thing. So charcoal is kind of a bag of tricks. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. And then I also have, what I will not be using on this job is white charcoal. Where's that? Here's some white charcoal sticks. And I have some white charcoal pencils around here somewhere, but you know what a white charcoal pencil looks like, or pastel. And here's a bag of erasers. Kneaded eraser, white eraser, and eraser bags, dry eraser bags, and we're almost done with our tour. Hang on. And chamois, dirty rotten chamois. Sorry, that's real chamois, real, sheepskin. They sell these at art stores in the drawing department. I'll leave that open because I'll be using that in just a minute. And finally, one of the most important tools I have is already used Kleenex or tissue that already has charcoal in it. There you go. So let's go back to my drawing. I will not be using white, by the way. That's a different look, a different feel. You introduce a very different, this is not the same color as a paper, so you can see it. So it's not like you can make corrections with white. All right, now the next question I have, because I'm not done at all blending this charcoal powder. I don't know if you could tell or not, but it was not completely even. There were light spots and dark spots and so forth. And I am taking care of that right now, and it looks to me like I'm getting pretty close to about a 10% screen, which suits me just fine. I'm going to go back now to my original brush and just smooth that off just a little bit more. Right, now that's just about a perfect, is it okay if I say that twice? That's just about a perfect screen grid. That's not the word I'm looking for. Halftone. All right. And that's sort of that's my starting point on this illustration. Okay, now I'm going to turn on my light table. Not on low, but on high. And now you can begin to see, you're going to turn these lights off, and you're beginning to see the image. There you go. Coming through, I'm going to put my glove back on. And I'm going to get a piece of brand new clean white paper, just copy paper off my printer over here. I'll lay this down for me to lay my hand on, and grabbing my can full of pencils. I want either hard or medium. And not, my feeling, my experience is that not all charcoal pencils are created equal. So I feel like you always have to test it. And I'm even going to turn that light off. All right, it's about as dark as I can get in here. And as crazy as it may seem, I'm going to wear 2 pairs of glasses. That's extreme, and my head might even get in your way here a little bit. And I do apologize for that. So, as you can see, as you figured out, I'm tracing like crazy. And I can hardly see the image here, in case you're wondering, because you can't see it. Well, I can't either. Barely see it. There's a little bit of a cheek on the boy, and the shadow on the shadow side of his cheek. Little bit of his eye socket coming over here to his forehead. His hairline there. A little hint of a wispy sideburns. And they're kissing, and I'm trying to figure out whose nose is on this side. I think it's his nose. So as you can tell, this was an old black and white photograph. Cracked, broken, scratched. Bad quality photograph, as you might expect, taken in 1954. And the client contacted me as a part of my coronavirus portrait special and said, hey, could you do a portrait of my grandma and grandpa kissing in 1954? So of course I said yes. So right now I'm trying really hard just to see anything. I'm looking at, not just looking at this, I'm also looking at the light, and the under and overexposed copies that I have here to my left. So once I've traced all that I can see, there's going to be quite a bit of drawing left to do because there's so much that I can't see here. So I'm going to have to, of course, invent some things. He's not wearing a t-shirt. It's a shirt with a collar, and it's actually the sleeve is actually creased, if you know what I mean. It's got a little peak right there looking up at his sleeve. So I've drawn just about everything I can see at this moment. I have no idea how long her hair is. Darn. I might email my client. I just realized that there's no way. It could go all the way down to her waist, or it might stop way up here. And that is the kind of thing that, you know, the descendants of these people might know. Did she have really long hair when she was young, when they got married? The more I go, it's like, man, I can't see anything in here. I just used, by the way, right there, some of my study, my knowledge of human anatomy tells me about the shape of his elbow. Well, I think I'm going to get less done on this drawing tonight even than I thought, because I didn't realize, I hadn't looked at it that carefully, and I didn't realize that there's no way to tell from the photograph. There's a big dark mass. It comes all the way down to her butt, but it could be a tree, or it could be her hair. There's no way to tell from the photograph. So I'm going to send an email to this client and see if they have any idea. How long was Grandma's hair before they got married? And of course, it's very possible they have no idea. I will also, there's one other thing I can do just to try to answer this mystery is it probably won't help, but I'll get back on my computer and look at this image instead of looking at a print, which of course is one step of decay away from cute little toes here. Grandma in bare feet. I'm drawing with a hard, I was going to say, I thought it was medium, but it's actually a hard charcoal pencil. There's, you know, with graphite pencils, there's H and B, and the range in graphite is all the way from, like, I don't know, 9H, maybe 9B to 11H, something like that. I have a couple sets of graphite, couple graphite kits. And the difference, you know, between a 3B and a 4B is you can hardly tell any difference, hardly at all. But boy, the difference between a medium and a hard and a soft and extra soft charcoal is quite pronounced. So maybe that's because there, you know, there's only those, how many? Hard, medium, soft. There's only 4 grades or hardnesses, as far as I know, in charcoal pencils. So the jump from one to the other is quite pronounced. All right, I don't need those 2 pairs of glasses on for this now. Let's turn on the lights and see what it looks like now. And turn off the, there we go. Oh, that looks nice. I'm almost done. Can you even see? Let's zoom in so you can see what's going on there. Hello, Ian Jackson. Oh yeah, thank you for that. That's exactly right. They were square back in the day, weren't they? Yeah. So let's do a little bit of shading while you're here. Obviously, that's just an outline, and that you know, that's nothing. That is nothing. Just a second. I'm going to pick up this brush again and just clean up some of the little smudges that my paper made. I want to keep this as clean as I can. So late, I'll be doing tons of erasing. I think you probably already figured that out, right? I'll be doing a whole bunch of erasing. Let's look for, I'm looking for a soft, there we go. All right, and here's a piece of paper, right, with a old drawing on it, right there, just to catch my crumbs. Whoops, hang on, you can't see what I'm doing, I'm sorry. Here's my scrap paper, and let's do it this way. So I'm drawing, just putting some charcoal down on the paper, the scrap paper, and rolling my blending stub in it. And I'm going to be doing, most of my drawing will be done with a blending stub or some kind of blending tool. Again, I have a whole, literally, bag of tricks. Usually my bags of tricks are not in bags, but this one happens to be. There are a couple white pastels. That's not what I'm going to use. Besides that, there's some blending tools, erasers, and all kinds of blending tools. Anyway, these tools are only in the darkest parts of this drawing. Will I use a charcoal pencil directly on the drawing. Another tip that I'll give you, being the swell feller that I am, Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Hang on, I've got to draw a distinction between... I will not be able to achieve sufficient blackness without using workable fixative. So again, I won't be getting to this tonight, but if you don't get a chance, if you're curious and you want to know, so how is a... Basically what I'll be imitating here, and again, you can see some of my finished work on my, also on my portrait page, I have a couple charcoal, finished charcoal drawings, not the sketches, the finished stuff. I won't be able to achieve adequate darkness with one. Well, let me demonstrate real quickly what I mean by that. So let's just, I have here a soft charcoal pencil, and I'm gonna, just in a little area, I'm gonna bear down as hard as I can right there. Then I'm gonna blow it off. And that black is not quite black enough. I won't be able to achieve that degree of blackness without doing this, spraying the whole thing, and doing this again. Just to get, so just to let you know, if you want really, really, really dark, which I do, I want the blacks, that's part of the, I feel like part of the beauty. It's a lot like, forgive me for making such a comparison, having the nerve, but it's a lot like Ansel Adams print. I want my blacks to be absolutely velvet black, absolutely as black as can be. I think that's part of the fun and the beauty of a good charcoal drawing. The black is just absolutely death midnight black, not a speck of anything, like velvet. And to achieve that, usually you have to build up twice. You can't quite get there all in one layer. Partly because that one layer will fall off. Like what I just did right there, you know, if I shook it, I already shook it once, so I'm not in danger. So that's as black as you can get. But after spraying it with a workable fixative and doing that process a second time, I will be able to achieve considerably darker. And as you can see, my little practice sheet over here is desperately important as I try to achieve subtle gradations. When I'm all done, also, there will be no lines. Like right now, you can see a little line right there. I actually shouldn't have drawn that one so hard. So that means I will do something. I'll go ahead and do some of it right now. You might as well see some of the finishing kind of techniques again, because I know many of you won't be able to join me again tomorrow. So this is just it's all dirty because it's been in a charcoal kit, but it's a white eraser. Do you see that? And I'm going to turn this sideways. And what I want to do right now is get rid of this little edge. And I'm going to use the wedge. So you cut this with an X-Acto knife. You cut it over as many times as you need to keep a sharp edge. You cut this end, of course, in a pencil sharpener. This would be a good time, again, for me to use 2 pairs of glasses at the same time. Okay, hang on, this is important. So what do you do now? Some of you are saying, why do you have all those brushes? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a tiny bit of sawdust, quote unquote, eraser dust right there. So that's one of the reasons, that's the reason for this brush. Most of the other brushes are going to be used for blending larger areas. But I'll also be using brushes for sweeping away the dust and ashes, if you will. Hang on here. I have my computer. Actually, it's in a different location than normal. It's in front of me. Tomorrow night, by the way, I am conducting my first and worst, because it's my first, I'm conducting my first online painter's critique. Now, some of you, if maybe you haven't signed up for that yet, don't panic. This is not the one that you're invited to. Okay? You will be invited later. I've invited all of you to participate in what I'm calling online artist. Notice a difference in verbiage. I'm not calling it online painters forum. I'm calling it online artists forum, because I'm inviting all two-dimensional artists. So tomorrow night, and that's why my computer is on my drawing table in front of me. Not that it matters to you, you can't see it, but anyway, I got to blabbing about it and thought, wait a minute, some of you actually know that my computer is not normally on my drawing desk. You know what? I actually can see considerably more on my computer monitor than I could. So I'm glad I pulled that up. So tomorrow night, I'm doing an online painters forum with a local arts organization here in North Carolina. I'm on the board, and this is a painter's critique that I am conducting. The people have been gracious enough to say, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do that. It's the same format that I'm inviting you to be a part of. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then when you were finished on this video, when you're finished, go to my community page, right? I always have to explain that a little bit, because some of you don't know that every YouTube channel has connected to it a community page, and it's typically where the publishers, producers like myself, that's where we post still images. So if you go to my community page, you'll see a one-page flyer, if you will, outline description describing this online artist forum, and I am inviting you all urgently with urgency. Oh, I get, wow, that's amazing. No, she has short hair. And in fact, this is his arm. Oh my goodness, I can't believe how much more I can see on the screen, my computer screen. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So, did you get that? If you are a two-dimensional artist, I am inviting you strongly, especially during this COVID quarantine season, I'm inviting you to participate. I don't know when the first one will be, probably 2 weeks from today, something like that. But you have to send me an email. That's all you have to do, is send me an email that says yes, yes, yes. You don't have to say it 3 times. You can just say it once. Send an email to me, and again, all the information is on that flyer. Send an email to danielnelsonart@gmail.com. That's my one-size-fits-all email address. So just send me an email with the one word yes, or more than that if you want to, but no more than that. You don't have to do any more than that. And then you can either watch or you can participate. Now here's, for those who participate, here's how that will work. and there's a cost involved, small cost, especially here at the beginning, introductory cost. Small cost if you want me to critique your painting or drawing. And basically, you email me a photograph of your painting or drawing. I will tweak that photograph in Photoshop to make it look as close to the original as I think it, as using my best judgment. And then I will print it out. In fact, let me show you, because I have some ready to go for tomorrow night. Whoops, I was off screen for a second there, wasn't I? Sorry about that. All right, so here are some of the paintings that I'm going to critique tomorrow night. And these are printed on canvas. So I will be painting right on these prints while I am critiquing and talking about the paintings. And by the way, these are, the quality of these paintings is quite good. I'm quite tickled with all of them. Look at that. That's Ron Smith, elephants on the African plain. This is an abstract by my good friend Manmohan. Another landscape. Anyway, so the key feature of my critique is I'll be painting right on these prints. Does that make sense? So we did this one time locally, live, before coronavirus hit, and the response was very positive. People seemed to have a very good time as I did it in person. Then I painted on prints. Anyway, so there you go. There's a big invitation, and I'm serious as I can be. I'm starting out, you can watch for free, and you can have me critique your painting for only $10. That price will go up, I assume, if we have people actually responding. So I think one of the best ways to grow as an artist, to learn, is actually to have an artist critique your work. And boy, I would love to, yeah, there's some artists I would love for them to critique my work. And by the way, it will not be a roast. It will not be a killjoy, ego threat. It will not be a put-down session. Good teachers do not put down their pupils. And if you've had a teacher who put you down, please understand that was a bad teacher. I have not many things in the art world that make me as angry as teachers who feel like the way to teach is by belittling or humiliating or putting down their students. That is a dysfunctional human being let loose in the art community, and we need to do our best to get the word out. Let your friends know whenever you have a teacher like that. They should be either corrected and healed, healed of their whatever wounds it is that's causing them to behave in that way. And until they're healed, they should not be doing any teaching whatsoever. And I feel very strongly about that. Anyway, so this critique will not be an opportunity for me to embarrass you. Quite the contrary. One of my chief goals will be to encourage you. I'll tell you all, not all, I'll tell you a whole bunch of things that are good and excellent about your painting. And when I get critical, I will be very gentle, I promise. I'm going to treat you the way I would want someone to treat me. Oh, I said I wouldn't be using the charcoal pencil directly on the paper, and here I am doing it. And it's a hard charcoal pencil. That's what is unusual about it. It's I'm using it. The hard is so hard it almost behaves like a blender. Speaking of blenders, I'm going to pull out a couple right now. One is this paint shaper that's designed, intended to be used to move paint around. Hang on just a second, I'll show you what it is I'm talking about. See, it's very soft rubber. I need something a little tougher than that, so I have two pencils here. One is a blender and one is a burnisher. Now, I don't know which one's going to work better. I'm going to start by using the blender. These are actually colored pencil products or tools that you find in the colored pencil department of your art store or your catalog. Okay, that was a blender and a burnisher. I'm using the blender at the moment. They're just sort of, they're a slightly waxy, very slightly. Going back to my, again, using my hard pencil almost as a burnisher itself, because it's so hard. Having already broken my rule about not using a pencil directly on the paper, I'm going to break it again. What I was thinking when I said that was for the halftone, for the light areas, and for the darkest areas, I won't be trying to achieve that just with a pencil. I'll be using all kinds of tricks. All right, how about maybe just before we go, let me pull up a couple erasers. So I already showed you one, which was this one that had been carved, cut with an X-Acto knife or cut with a hand pencil sharpener. But I'll generally use that for real fine stuff. I have here two eraser pencils. So now you'll be able to see, because we're all getting sort of accustomed to this gray tone that I covered the entire page with at the outset. Now that I do some white, we're going, oh, wait a minute, whoa. Is that the way, that's the way I'm feeling? Is that the way you're feeling? Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. There's a lot more gradation, room for tonal range here, because I go a whole lot lighter. So I'm hoping you can understand why it's a time saver to put down that pale gray over the whole thing, because then I can work in both directions. I work both darker from there and lighter from there, instead of just all darker from there, which would take more work. Does that make sense? And why didn't some of you said, why? What do you do with a chamois? Well, chamois is one of the gentlest erasers. in the charcoal toolkit. There, so you see what I just did to his shirt? It's a very soft tool. Go ahead and do some even on her skirt. Okay, so this, the white that I'm achieving with the chamois is not a pure white, of course. And I've got a few little fingerprints right here, see? So just for fun, let's get rid of those. So, with the chamois, I got her skirt down to about a 5% screen, if you will, 5% gray. And now with the eraser pencil, I can get that down to about a 2% or 1% gray, almost perfectly white. And at the very end, can you hear this? Where's my microphone? There you go. Oh, my mic's all falling down. Sorry about that. No wonder I'm not hearing you very well. Anyway, there's my electric eraser, which I will reserve for the very, very, very lightest areas in the drawing, like up in the sky. That's about as white as I can get. Almost perfectly white paper. For all practical purposes, it's pure white. And of course, now you see I've got a whole bunch of sawdust, quote unquote, eraser dust, all over this drawing. And that's one of the reasons I have this fan brush. So tomorrow, I had to spend a whole bunch of time today, by the way, getting ready for my online painter's critique. Quite the learning curve, having to learn all about Zoom and everything. I had a practice call, I had to build a little bit of hardware and so on. So it was not a fun day because I didn't get to draw much or paint much. So that's why I'm painting now at nearly 9 p.m. because making up for a little bit of lost time. So when I'm finished with what I call a smooth finish charcoal drawing, I want it to look smooth as silk. There will not be, if I can help it, there will not be any charcoal lines, no texture whatsoever. So this is a control freak's, paradise. This is me being a control freak, and it's kind of fun. And again, if you want to see samples of my work that's finished, you'll see what I'm talking about. Another way to describe it is I will want these to look like a black and white photograph, basically, right? So what a change from my normal throwing paint around and making interesting marks and creating chaos, right? So this is the other side of my personality, is very much alive and well, and frankly is sort of my native tongue, if you will. I spent the great majority of my life being a tight, accurate, precise, realistic painter and drawer. When you watch me do my wild and crazy painting, all of that stuff is a learned response, a learned technique that is sort of not my natural. I think it's my best, don't get me wrong, I'm not apologizing for it. But I am essentially, you know, a bit of an OCD. I like to say OC without the D. In fact, I'm quite positive that there's no D. That is obsessive compulsive disorder, for those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about. I don't have disorder, but I definitely am obsessive compulsive personality. So that means a neatnik. You know, the odd couple, I'm which guy? Oscar or Felix, whichever one is the neat one. That's me. I'm much more that way. But he was D. He was OCD. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm showing my age, I'm sure. So doing finicky, detailed, precise stuff like this is certainly my, as I said, my natural inclination. So it's kind of fun every once in a while just to sit down and do some natural inclination. Do you know what I mean? Kind of fun. And I feel like that's why I can really relate to people who are, I can certainly relate to people who are doing super realistic or hyper realistic or photorealistic artwork and so forth. It is an impulse with which I am not unfamiliar. How about that for a double negative? Quite familiar with that impulse. I need some more blending. And I know I'm going slowly enough to drive some of you bezoic, and thank goodness most of the people who are bezoic have long since left this broadcast. And just left. I probably have a bunch of OCD people watching me, if my guess is right. Or maybe you're just watching in wonder, like as if watching a creature from another planet, perhaps, because you're not anything like this. I don't know. Be that as it may. Thanks for watching. Hello, Brenda. Sorry I didn't see that earlier. No, you've never seen me do this before. Hello, Ian. Ian, I messed around, that idea in Photoshop, yes. Ian, you sound like you can relate to me a little bit, eh? When you paint, you're loose, and when you draw, you're tight. Yeah. That certainly describes me to an extent, because, again, as an illustrator, most of my work was tight, and I was doing more drawing than painting. I don't know if that's, anyway. It was a lot of watercolor, a lot of pen and ink with watercolor and airbrush, all kinds of stuff. Let's come into her hair now and lift out some of the highlights. We cannot see these people's faces. This grandma and grandpa in 1950, 54. but they sure have the full flesh flower of youth all over them. And so they look quite beautiful. It's a really fun project to be working on. They're too young, a little bit younger than my parents. Judging by his face and physique, if this is 1954, he was too young to be in the war. So this is the immediate, well, I don't know, not generation, but the age group right after. Maybe at a stretch, the younger brothers or nephews of the boys who went to the war. I should have asked if these people were still alive. I failed to ask that question. I think I was assuming the answer was no, but I might be wrong about that. Because they would be in their 80s, and certainly not a stretch. Oh no, look what happened. I didn't realize that I was putting my hand on the on the paper, so I won't bother fixing that right now. It'll just take too much of your time. Let's zoom out a little bit. In fact, let's turn on my let's just go ahead and start doing some drawing of the tree way out over here. So, Lord willing, I know what I'll be doing tomorrow. I'll be happily sitting here. I'll broadcast some of the process, not all of it, as you might imagine. I think it'd just be a little bit too monotonous. But it'll be fun to sink my teeth into realism of a sort, eh? Definitely finicky, detail-oriented, slow, methodical. I hope I don't regret that I hope I don't come to regret agreeing to do this for the price that I did. But if I do, the only solution, and this happened so many times when I was an illustrator, and I would just hope to make up the deficit on my next job, you know. But the only thing you can do is just put the pedal to the metal, just sit on your butt and draw as fast as you can. And I had many, many opportunities to exercise that little bit of self-discipline during the years when I was an illustrator. Speaking of which, though, this again, the reason I'm working so cheap, I don't know, some of you may have seen my post. I didn't remember now where it was, but I asked the question, why, as if someone might ask me, why are you doing all this work so cheaply? Goodness knows, I like to think that I'm worth more than that I'm charging for these. And I came up with several answers. Why am I working so cheaply? Well, because we're all in, at least most of us, we're in some kind of crisis. Many of us financial crises, I understand that. So prices are low to accommodate that. I need money, so I need to produce income some way, and I'm just willing to work harder than most people. I don't know if that's true, that's a comparative statement, but judging by the comments that I receive on my YouTube channel all the time, it seems most people have the impression, at least, that I'm a very hard worker. I have the same impression, for what it's worth. I do think I work hard. I don't think I'm abused by any means. Not by any means, not by a long shot. But I do work hard. And, okay, let's just for fun. Trying to figure out how I want to begin. I know what I want to do. I'm going to use a charcoal stick, because the charcoal stick is considerably softer. It's a gray, it's not at all black, it's quite gray. So I can't get very dark with this stuff. I'm just slapping it down for an initial coat, initial layer of gray for all the background trees. And as you can imagine, I'm going to work very hard to achieve the perfect atmospheric perspective, right, in this drawing. So let's just see. Let's see how this comes out now. So the bind charcoal was just a delivery system. It was just a way of getting a certain amount of black carbon to the paper. And now we're refining it a little bit, smoothing it out. Hello, Larkin Livesay. Thank you for speaking up, my friend. You're very welcome. Oh, yeah, sorry, Ian. I did tell you way at the beginning, it's a single ply Bristol board. I forget what brand it is. It's not Strathmore. I remember that it was kind of a off-brand, if you will. I shouldn't say that, because I'm sure it's not an off-brand, but it's not Strathmore, which is so ubiquitous in my world. Yeah, banana on a wall. That, my friends, is a different world. I'm still working on a book. I've been working on a book for over 10 years. My notes are over 400 pages long, where I tried to describe that world and explain that world to the uninitiate, the people who don't know what's going on. It's neither a rave, nor is it a love fest. It is, I think, trying to be a fair and balanced assessment of the art, the art establishment. Now I'm using a rather slightly stiff, soft bristle brush, though that's an oxymoron. Did you catch that? It's not a bristle, it's a fake bristle, but they've been cut short, so they're a little bit stiffer than normal. And I'm not liking that very much. I need something. But before I do anything else, I'm going to pick this up and blow the dust off it. Let's try a different brush. Here's a great big one. It really is quite a good photograph. I mean, not good quality as far as resolution or preservation, but the composition is really quite good. I'm sorry you can't see it right now, but the couple they're both wearing white, and they're silhouetted against dark trees. The horizon's right in the right place, and this rock on which they're standing goes at an angle. It's not level, So there are a number of things like that that make it really good photographs. So that's a real treat. And I'm just going to essentially copy the composition because there's almost no improvement needed. Other than things like I will push the background back a little further, which you can see me already doing that here in the work I've just done. It's a little bit in the photograph. Some of this is almost black. Well, there won't be any black. Tell you what, since I keep, and again, like always, I say I'm gonna quit, and then I keep going. So let's just keep going for a bit. The boy is also wearing, looks like white trousers anyway. And I'm looking at my screen. I'm gonna blow up her hand. Oh yeah, she's got her arms all the way around him. She's grasping her own arm back over here. They're both so skinny they can wrap their arms completely around. Do you remember when we were that skinny? Never mind, I won't say anything like that. Cute, cute, cute. I take it they had a happy marriage because it's their grandchild commissioning me to do this drawing. By the way, when the client pitched me this job, he or she, and I'm forgetting right now, I'll look up. I'm embarrassed. I shouldn't be forgetting, but you know, their question is, can you paint this? And it was my suggestion that I do it as a charcoal drawing, and thankfully the client went along with it because I think it's a perfect, if you will, perfect idea, perfect medium for reproducing this. And of course, the original photograph is like 2 by 2 inches or something like that. So this is 24 by 24. Here's the first time I'm using tonight using a kneaded eraser again. So all these different erasers have a different grab, if you will, or different grit. The kneaded eraser, of course, is stop stuttering, Dan. Is much softer tool, so I can achieve a bit of a rounded graduation. So I hope somebody watches this who really is curious enough to get into do some charcoal. Charcoal is I would say a pretty well-known, you know, much used tool, but way more often I think it's used in the sketch mode, in the scratchy, and I have some of that on my website as well, again mixed in with all the others. You can see the difference. In fact, I have taught online here somewhere. I mean, on one of our daily adventures, I've given my little, you know, how to do charcoal sketch lesson. I'll do that again. I have a formula that I've developed for that, but this is not that. This is finished. Very, very different approach. Much slower, of course, as you can see. Much more time consuming. But isn't that sweet? Look at this gray. Isn't that a nice mid-tone? And there'll be a fair amount of detail in all of this. I'll be sky holes. There'll be a lot of sky holes in this gray. And I can already tell you that I'm going, because they're wearing white and they're out in the sun. One of the improvements I'm going to make on the photograph is that there's going to be a distinct glow bouncing off this boy's back. That will just be sweet. Right? That's something that I can do that the photograph doesn't do. Or it does actually. Another look at it does it, but it's such a tiny bit. I'll be magnifying that that dynamic quite a bit, and it will be very charming indeed. It will make it look more enchanting. That's a good word. What an enchanting image, right? Young couple, 1950s, in love. It's really especially fun when you know that they went on to have children and grandchildren. That makes this drawing particularly fun. There was plenty of there was plenty of hot smooches going on in the 50s, believe me, that did not have such happy endings. And the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, yeah. Always. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. Kind of a difference between a licentious bit of foreplay and true love, knowing that they had grandchildren. That is just sweet. Love it. Hilltop foreplay. Pity the person who hasn't done it. But anyway, never mind. Come on, you were in love once too, weren't you? Hopefully you still are. Did I tell you my wife and I celebrated our 40th anniversary on Sunday? And speaking of in love, we are very much in love. And I am a blessed man, putting it mildly. We got away. We didn't go to Ireland or Scotland. We're going to do that one of these years. This is not the year, evidently. There's a restaurant here in Raleigh, North Carolina, my hometown, called the Angus Barn. All you locals know it well. It's one of the flagship, top of the line steak restaurants for 60 years. And we had a gift certificate, so that was nice. So we picked up our dinner there and then went to one of the Marriott hotels. So nice hotel, I don't know how many rooms, hundreds. The lady at the desk said there were 10 rooms that were booked that night. Oh, sick. So we were doing our part to help the economy. With our relief check, a little tiny bit of it, we used it to pay a hotel. How about that? I'm going to be rendering these trees, as you might imagine, in a multi-step process. This is just right now the first step, unless you count the gray, the first step, then this would be the second. I'll be erasing and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to achieve just the texture, the detail, refinement of edge. I do not, of course, want all these edges to be sharp, even though you just saw me do a bunch of outlining with a pencil. That's just to get us started. I am indeed copying the trees that are in the photograph. I think that's, you know, not twig for twig, but generally speaking, that's certainly one of the things that my client will be looking for. They want it to look like, I don't know where this hill is. Let's say Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Okay, just for fun, let's just say in the mountains, North Carolina. So I'm sure they'll be, when they get this, when they see the finished drawing, they want to be recognized. Oh yeah, you know, so I'm not going to throw in a lot of unnecessary changes. But I'll be erasing and then drawing again, erasing again, drawing again. And to a large extent, in this here, this here, this area here, I'll be just striving for the appropriate hardness of line, hardness of edge, softness of edge is really more to the point. Just hard enough and just soft enough is what I'm going to be aiming for, right? We want the viewer's eyes to come back again and again and again to the couple. That will not be hard to achieve, will it? So that then it's a judgment call. You know, do a little tiny edge here, but not too much. Just enough, not too much. That's the crazy intuitive magic of art. Is just enough, not too much. Yeah, about everything. Just that in this case, there's no color involved. It's all pure black and white. Which even that, just in and of itself, working in black and white is a really fun change. So I look forward to posting this illustration on my website along with my other I have some portraits that are done in this style again, but they're on the portrait page, I think, unless they're also on the charcoal page. I don't remember. But the other charcoal stuff that's there, you'll see, is sort of fantasy, what I like to call storytelling art, mild fantasy kind of stuff. So this will be a different genre from that. You know what, at the moment I kind of like that little faint hint of an edge. I don't know if I'll keep that or not, but actually at the moment I quite like the way it looks in places where you can still see a bit of the pencil marks that I used to draw, to outline those trees. Even though, so that's not realistic, right? Realism, there's no, nature doesn't actually have outlines. But art does, and sometimes art looks better with more outlines than nature, sometimes. So we'll see. I don't have to make that call now, of course. But when I just sat back for a second and sort of looked at it, I said, oh, you know what, I kind of like that outline. So we'll see. If I decide to include that, will, in a way, that will mean that the drawing will be one tick or two more abstract than I was thinking, and that would be fine too. All these things, it's very much a discovery process for the artist. You guys know that. It's all, you don't have it all planned ahead of time. It unfolds before you, doesn't it? One step, or in this case, one stroke at a time. And you get hit with surprises, like I just did just a second ago. It's like, oh, you know what? Those outlines, that looks kind of cool. A little bit more abstract. So we'll see. I'll see how I feel about it tomorrow. I certainly hope to finish this tomorrow. If not, I'll be really anxious about how much time I'm spending on it. But the most important thing, of course, always, regardless of how much time you spend on a piece of art, The most important thing is to do a good job. A business person would say, no, the most important thing is ROI, return on investment. And that's why I'm not a businessman. That's why I'm an artist, because I've thought, this is really true, when I've thought, I'm so much, I wish I were a better businessman, I really do. But I've thought often, you know, here's two possibilities. If I spent the day very productively and made, you know, some good money, $1,000 say in a day, when my head hits my pillow, how pleased am I? Well, quite pleased. I'm quite happy. But if I spend a day producing a piece of artwork that I'm really happy with, you know, which one of those two happinesses is greater? Unfortunately, I'm such an artist. You guys all, you know what's coming, don't you? It's the latter, isn't it? It's the latter of those two. I really like going to bed having made a lot of money in a day, but I like even more going to bed having made some real beauty. The trick is to try to get those two things to correlate to some degree, right? If only they always correlated. If only they always did. I'm going to do just a little bit more. I'm serious this time. Just a little bit more. My first layer of midtones here in underneath their arms. Hang on, looking really carefully. Drawing, flying without instruments right now. Thank you guys for congratulations on the 40th. Ooh, Ian asks a good question. No. Have I tried any hybrid pencils, half charcoal and half graphite? I have not, Ian. So that's an adventure yet ahead of. Oh, maybe not that I know of, anyway. I ran across a couple pencils today when I was cleaning out my kit here. I'm not sure what they were. Ian, we take for granted the grayscale range in modern cameras, but the film efficiency is a very low value range. Exactly. It really was, wasn't it? Oh, Ian, I want to come to Yorkshire. That's exactly one of the places I want to go. I have kinfolks, I mean ancestors, not kinfolks, ancestors in Yorkshire. So like many of you guys, evidently I was a Viking way back somewhere. one of my branches was, way to go, Brenda, 34 years, good for you. Ian, I have never tried wet brush in charcoal. Have you? The thought did cross my mind. Not for this job. Not this. This. It seems to me this is not a time for me to experiment wildly when I'm being paid. It does sound interesting. I'm using a medium pencil here to just gumbo in a mid-tone gray. And just preparatory, I'm thinking, to coming in with a blender like this and smoothing it all out. Yeah, I don't want, as far as I can tell, I don't want any of that traditional charcoal scratchiness to show, grittiness, like I've got right there. So I'm going to smooth it all out. Again, a real OC, obsessive compulsive personality dream. Ooh, I get to smooth it all. You mean I get to smooth it all out? Wow. And as it is just a style, as you know, it's not the style. It's just one way to do charcoal. And I'm doing it because I've done it before and it was fun and it seemed particularly appropriate for this little job. When I do the workable fixative, again, in case anybody's, I mentioned that earlier, in order to get the darkest black velvet, I'll need to build it up in layers using workable fixative in between. The challenge, the thing I need to watch out for, so once I've sprayed it, I can't get anything lighter again, right? I've locked in, so I have to be careful when it comes time to spray that there's no part of the drawing that I will wish was lighter. So I'll just be really careful and hope I don't live to regret. All right, so there's a little bit of the process. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that pretty? I'm liking it. It's already appealing to me. You guys, thanks so much for watching. Oh yeah, on more like on watercolor paper, I bet, right? Or at least a watercolor, yeah, water-based paper. It's exactly what you said. Sounds like fun. Ian, have to go sometime and practice drawing. Lay some charcoal down and just use wet brush water to create shapes. I will do that. That sounds like a great idea. What fun. Thank you. Okay, I'll let you, just in case anybody joined us, you wonder, who is this guy talking? That'd be me. I appreciate your company. You know what, I really do. I am not kidding you guys. Tonight we had supper, nice dinner, then the family went for a walk. That was really sweet. And then I knew, though, that I had to come up. By the way, you might get some static now. I have to turn you guys on or we're going to lose you. And about 8 o'clock, maybe, I said, oh, I don't want to go to work. I'm going to be working for 2 hours. But one little side benefit was, yeah, but I got some friends that are going to join me and watch me. It's strange. Not even I know how to explain that. And I'm essentially an introvert. Figure that out. I'm an introvert who likes to, I don't know what the word is, perform. There you go. All right, that's enough. I'll be broadcasting tomorrow, some on this, and hopefully some back on my two painting portraits that are both near the end of the acrylic stage. And I appreciate your chat and your time and your company. And an eraser powder. Yeah. To answer that, I just caught that question. I think to answer your question, yes, that's essentially what's inside these. And so if you just take this and shake it over your paper like this, then you end up with that eraser powder that you're talking about. So this is sort of eraser powder in a bag. And you can buy it without the bag too, of course, but Yeah, same idea. Yeah, I do use this trick sometimes. All right, this is my last time to say goodbye. Thanks, y'all.